the Clarvian war fleet appeared without warning above Earth's largest colony. Admiral Knox gripped the edge of the command console as alarms shrieked through the bridge of the Defiant. Plasma signatures lit up every screen. 47 hostile vessels hung in formation like predators circling wounded prey. "They're charging weapons," Lieutenant Briggs announced, her voice tight. Knox had seconds to decide. The colony held 8 million civilians. No time for evacuation. No time for reinforcements. Just his single cruiser against an empire that had crushed 12 star systems in 4 months. All hands to battle stations. Launch every drone we have. Get me a firing solution on their flagship. The Clarvians didn't negotiate. Their transmissions came in cold, mechanical bursts. Surrender or burn. They'd given the same ultimatum to the Telrithi Confederacy, to the Vorian Republic, to species with technology centuries beyond humanity's reach. Each had fallen within weeks. Earth was next. The first volley came like thunder. Energy beams tore across the void, slamming into the Defiant shields. The ship bucked hard. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Knox stayed upright by pure force of will. "Return fire!" The Defiant's railguns roared. Tungsten rounds punched through space at relativistic speeds. 3 connected with a Clarvian destroyer. Its shields held barely. "They're adapting to our weapons," Briggs said. Of course they were. The Clarvians had fought 1,000 wars. Humanity had fought exactly one, and they were losing it. Then something changed on the tactical display. A new signature. Small. Fast. Coming from the planet's surface. "Unknown craft entering combat zone," the sensor officer called out. "It's not broadcasting any FFA." Knox zoomed the view. A shuttle. Modified. Civilian grade with military thrusters welded to the frame like some kind of deranged hot rod. Who the hell authorized a launch? "No one, sir. It's not on any flight plan." The shuttle didn't slow. It accelerated directly into the formation of Clarvian ships, weaving through plasma fire with movements no autopilot could execute. Knox watched a human pilot do the impossible, threading a path that should have vaporized the craft 3 times over. The shuttle reached the Clarvian flagship. Something detached from its hull, an explosive charge. Primitive. Crude. The charge detonated against the flagship's shield emitter. The shields collapsed. The Defiant's next railgun salvo hit bare hull. The Clarvian flagship split in half, atmosphere venting in brilliant white plumes. The enemy formation scattered. Knox stared at the screen. One shuttle. One pilot. One perfectly placed explosive had just turned the tide of an unwinnable battle. "Get me a line to that shuttle, now." Static crackled. Then a voice. Young, steady, American accent. "Defiant, this is civilian shuttle Griffin. Sorry for the unauthorized launch." Figured you could use a hand. Knox allowed himself the ghost of a smile. "Griffin, this is Admiral Knox. Who am I speaking with?" A pause. "Name's Garrett Bishop, sir. Just a colonist who got tired of waiting." The Clarvian counterattack came 30 seconds later. 6 destroyers broke formation and converged on the Griffin. Garrett Bishop didn't run. He dove straight down toward the planet's atmosphere, the destroyers following like sharks tasting blood. Knox watched the tactical display with growing disbelief. "He's leading them into the thermosphere." "Sir, that shuttle can't handle atmospheric re-entry at combat speed," Briggs said. "Neither can their destroyers." The Griffin hit the upper atmosphere at an angle that should have torn it apart. Friction ignited the air around its hull in a corona of fire. The Clarvian ships followed, their adaptive shields reconfiguring for the new environment. They were built for this. Humanity's modified shuttle wasn't. But Garrett didn't care about what was possible. He pulled up at the last possible second. skimming barely 300 meters above the colony's tallest structure. The wind shear from his passage shattered windows across 6 blocks. The Clarvian destroyers weren't as nimble. 2 collided, trying to match his turn. They went down in a screaming tangle of metal, crashing into the uninhabited northern wasteland in twin fireballs that lit the dawn sky. 4 destroyers remained. They spread out, cutting off escape vectors. Garrett's voice came through the steady as bedrock. "Defiant, I'm painting targets with my laser designator. You see them?" Knox checked his display. 4 perfect targeting locks. "Confirmed, Griffin. But our firing solution requires you to hold position for 8 seconds. Copy that! Beginning my count." 8. The Griffin stopped running. It pivoted in place, thrusters firing in controlled bursts, holding itself stationary above the colony's central plaza. A sitting target. 7. The Clarvian ships opened fire. Energy beams converged from 4 directions. Garrett rolled the shuttle, presenting the narrowest profile, but there was nowhere to hide. 6. A beam clipped the Griffin's port thruster. Alarms screamed through the shuttle's cockpit, audible over the comm. The craft started to spin. 5. Garrett corrected with the starboard thruster, fighting the rotation. The shuttle steadied. Another beam struck the tail section. Metal vaporized. 4. Knox gripped the console. The Defiant's rail guns were charging, but not fast enough. "Griffin, break off. We'll find another solution." Negative, Defiant. 3. The Griffin's shields collapsed. The next hit would be fatal. 2. Knox made a choice. Fire everything now. The Defiant's full arsenal launched simultaneously. Railgun rounds, missiles, plasma torpedoes. The barrage crossed the distance in 1.4 seconds and struck all 4 Clarvian destroyers in perfect synchronization. 3 exploded outright. The 4th lost power and began a slow tumble toward the planet. 1, Garrett said quietly. The Griffin dropped from the sky, engines dead, falling like a stone toward the colony below. Emergency thrusters fired in sporadic bursts, slowing the descent but not stopping it. The shuttle hit the plaza hard, carving a trench through decorative stonework before coming to rest against a fountain. Knox held his breath. The shuttle's hatch blew open. Garrett Bishop emerged, limping but alive, and collapsed onto the plaza's charred ground. Colonists poured from nearby buildings, rushing toward him. Above, the remaining Clarvian ships were retreating. 30 vessels against 1 damaged cruiser should have been an easy victory. But they'd watched a human in a civilian shuttle destroy 6 of their destroyers through sheer audacity. The psychological impact was devastating. Knox opened a colony-wide channel. "All civilians remain in shelters. This engagement is not over." But Garrett was already being lifted by colonists, passed from hand to hand toward the medical facility. Knox watched through the external cameras as thousands gathered around the crashed shuttle, touching its scorched hull like a religious artifact. Lieutenant Briggs pulled up a file. "Sir, I found Bishop's records. He's 26, mining engineer. No military training, no flight certification beyond basic shuttle operation." "Then where did he learn to fly like that?" "According to his employment history, he didn't. He just decided he could." Knox stared at the image of Garrett Bishop being carried through the crowd, unconscious but breathing. This was humanity's secret weapon, not technology, not tactics, just the absolute refusal to accept the impossible. The comm crackled. New signal. Clarvian frequency. A voice spoke in translated speech, cold and mechanical. "Defiant, you have demonstrated unexpected capability. We propose a ceasefire to discuss terms." Knox smiled. "Negative. You wanted Earth. Come and take it. The Clarvian response was immediate. Their ships charged weapons. The real battle was about to begin. The Clarvian fleet split into 3 attack groups. Nox had minutes to coordinate a defense with 0 reinforcements and a ship running at 60% capacity. The colonists were still exposed. Evacuation remained impossible. Then his sensor officer spoke up. "Sir, I'm reading new contacts. Multiple launches from the colony's surface." Nox pulled up the display. 17 shuttles. All civilian craft, all modified like the Griffin with weapons that had no business being there. Mining lasers, industrial cutting torches, explosive charges meant for asteroid demolition. "They're forming up around us," Briggs said, her voice caught between awe and horror. A new voice cut into the command channel. Female. "Defiant, this is Shuttle Valkyrie. Captain Lisa Monroe requesting permission to join the fight." Nox should have ordered them back, should have screamed at them to land immediately. Instead, he found himself asking, "Monroe, what's your flight experience?" "Cargo hauling, sir. 4 years. But I watched Bishop's run, figured if he could do it, so could I." More voices followed, men and women, young and old. Engineers, miners, transport pilots. None of them soldiers, all of them volunteers. Shuttle Hammer standing by. Shuttle Nightfall ready for action. Shuttle Patriot awaiting orders. Nox looked at his tactical display. 17 civilian shuttles against 30 Clarvian warships. The mathematics were suicidal. He opened the channel. "All civilian craft. This is Admiral Nox. You are not trained for this. You are not equipped for this. If you engage, most of you will die." Silence held for 3 seconds. Then Lisa Monroe responded. "Sir, with respect, they came to our home. We didn't ask for this fight, but we're damn sure going to finish it." Nox felt something shift in his chest. Pride, terror, hope. All civilian craft fall in behind the Defiant. We move as one unit. On my mark, break by pairs and engage targets of opportunity. Use your speed. Use their assumptions against them. Make them think you're dangerous, even when you're not. The Clarvian attack groups accelerated. Energy weapons charged across 30 hulls, ready to reduce the Defiant and its ragtag escort to debris. Nox waited until they were committed to their approach vectors. Mark. The civilian shuttles scattered like startled birds. The Clarvians tried to track them, their targeting system struggling with the chaotic movement patterns. These weren't military formations. There was no doctrine, no procedure, just improvisation and fury. Lisa Monroe dove beneath a Clarvian cruiser and dragged her mining laser across its ventral hull. The beam carved a glowing line through armor plating, severing power conduits. The cruiser went dark. 2 shuttles designated Razor and Phoenix worked in tandem, herding a destroyer into the Defiant's firing arc. Nox's railguns spoke. The destroyer came apart in a bloom of superheated gas. But the Clarvians were adapting. A frigate caught the shuttle Patriot with a direct plasma hit. The craft vaporized instantly. 12 civilians gone in a flash of light. "Patriot is down," Briggs reported, her voice hollow. Nox gritted his teeth. "All shuttles, evasive pattern Delta. Don't give them clean shots." The battle devolved into chaos. Shuttles weaved through Clarvian formations, too small and too erratic to hit reliably. Every few seconds, one would dart in close enough to deploy an explosive charge or rake a critical system with industrial tools never meant for war. It was insane. It was beautiful. It was working. Then the Clarvian command ship did something unexpected. It stopped firing. its weapons powered down. A transmission came through, aimed directly at Nox. "Human Commander, your forces display admirable courage but tactical confusion. You sacrifice your people for a battle you cannot win. We offer one final opportunity for honorable surrender." Nox was about to respond when another voice cut through the channel, weak but defiant. "This is Garrett Bishop." "Defiant, do you copy?" Nox switched frequencies. "Bishop, you should be in medical." "I discharged myself, sir. I'm at the colony's primary communications array, and I just sent something very interesting to the Clarvian flagship." "Explain." "Every battle they've fought, every species they've conquered, the Clarvians always broadcast their victories across their empire. It's how they maintain control through fear. So I hacked their transmission network, and I'm sending them something new. Live footage from this battle. Every Clarvian ship we've destroyed, every impossible maneuver our shuttles pulled off. I'm making sure their entire empire watches humans refuse to break." Nox understood immediately. The Clarvians weren't just fighting for Earth. They were fighting to maintain the myth of their invincibility. And Garrett Bishop was destroying that myth in real time. The Clarvian flagship's weapons came back online, but not aimed at the Defiant. Aimed at the colony, at the communications array, at Garrett Bishop. The energy beam lanced toward the communications array with enough power to vaporize everything within a kilometer. Garrett had 5 seconds to live. Lisa Monroe saw it happening from her cockpit. She was too far away. Too slow. The Valkyrie couldn't possibly cross the distance in time. She pushed the throttle past the red line anyway. The shuttle's frame groaned as the engines exceeded their design tolerances. Warning lights flooded the cockpit. Lisa ignored them all, her eyes locked on the communications array below. The Clarvian beam was a pillar of destruction, screaming down through the atmosphere. The Valkyrie hit the beam's path 3 seconds before impact. The shuttle's shields lasted exactly 0.6 seconds. Then the beam punched through the hull, vaporizing the entire aft section. The craft tumbled wildly, breaking apart as it fell. But those 0.6 seconds had been enough. The beam scattered, its coherence disrupted. The dispersed energy hit the communications array with a fraction of its original power. Equipment exploded. The building's roof collapsed, but Garrett Bishop, diving behind a reinforced server bank, survived. Lisa Monroe did not. The Valkyrie's forward section hit the ground 2 kilometers from the colony center. No ejection, no survivors. Nox watched it happen on his screens, his hands clenched so tight his knuckles went white. Another name to add to the list of civilians who had become soldiers in the span of an hour. "Sir," Briggs said quietly, "the transmission is still broadcasting." Bishop kept it running. On every screen across the Clarvian Empire the footage played. Humans in civilian shuttles destroying warships, a woman sacrificing herself to save a man, broadcasting their defeat, the myth of Clarvian invincibility burning away with each repeated clip. The enemy flagship's commander made a choice born from desperation. If they couldn't stop the transmission, they would make it irrelevant by destroying every human in the system. All 23 remaining Clarvian ships converged on the colony. No more tactics, no more precision strikes, just overwhelming firepower aimed at wiping humanity from this world. Nox had nothing left. The Defiant's weapons were nearly depleted. The civilian shuttles were scattered, half of them damaged. This was the end. Then space itself rippled. New contacts appeared on sensors. Dozens of them. Ships jumping in from faster-than-light transit, dropping out of warp at the system's edge. but they weren't human vessels. Sir, I'm reading Teldari signatures. Borean signatures. Quellan signatures. Briggs looked up, stunned. It's the species the Clarvians conquered. They're here. The comm exploded with transmissions in a dozen languages. The Defiant's translator system struggled to keep up. Human vessel Defiant, this is Telrathi Commander Voss. We received your transmission. We are here to fight. Defiant, Vorian Strike Group 7 reporting. We watched your colonists stand against impossible odds. We will stand with you. Human friends, this is the Quellan Defense Fleet. The Clarvians took our worlds, but they never broke our spirit. Yours has rekindled ours. We fight together now. Knox stared at the tactical display as it filled with Allied contacts. 40 ships, 60, 100. Species that had surrendered to the Clarvians were returning to fight because they'd watched humans refuse to quit. Garrett Bishop's transmission hadn't just shown the Clarvians losing. It had shown everyone what resistance looked like. The Clarvian flagship tried to retreat. The Allied fleet cut off their escape. What followed wasn't a battle. It was retribution. Every species that had lost worlds to Clarvian conquest took their vengeance in coordinated strikes that left the enemy fleet burning. When it ended, 23 Clarvian ships were destroyed or disabled. Not a single Allied vessel lost. Knox opened a channel to the colony. "Bishop, are you receiving?" Static crackled, then Garrett's voice, rough with pain but alive. "I'm here, sir." Did it work? It worked. The galaxy is watching, and they're joining the fight. Down in the ruined communications array, Garrett Bishop allowed himself to collapse against the wreckage. Medical teams were already racing toward his position. He'd bought Earth time, maybe more than time, maybe hope, but the cost weighed on him. Lisa Monroe, the Patriot's crew. Every civilian who'd climbed into a shuttle knowing they might not come back. He'd started this by making one reckless decision. Now the whole galaxy was making the same choice. To stand and fight. Above the colony, Admiral Knox coordinated with the Allied fleet commanders, planning the next move. The Clarvians still held 12 conquered systems, but now they faced a unified resistance born from watching humans turn desperation into defiance. In his damaged shuttle, a mining engineer named Garrett Bishop had changed the course of an interstellar war, and somewhere in the Clarvian Empire, a queen was demanding answers about the species that refused to kneel. The Clarvian throne world received the battle footage 6 hours after the engagement ended. Queen Salver watched the transmission 3 times in complete silence, her scaled fingers gripping the armrests of her command throne hard enough to crack the metal. Her military council stood before her, waiting for the rage that would inevitably come. It didn't. Instead, the Queen spoke with cold precision. "Explain to me how 17 civilian craft destroyed 6 of our destroyers." High Commander Vectis stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the humans employed unconventional tactics. They disregarded their own safety in ways our predictive models could not account for. Unconventional." The Queen's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow felt more dangerous than a shout. "You mean suicidal?" "Yes, Your Majesty." Salvera rose from her throne, her full height casting shadows across the chamber. She had ruled the Clarvian Empire for 30 cycles, expanding its borders through calculated aggression and overwhelming force. Every species she'd encountered had eventually surrendered when faced with the mathematics of certain defeat. Humanity had looked at those same mathematics and decided they were merely suggestions. "The Telrathi have broken their surrender treaty," she said. "The Vorians are mobilizing their remaining fleets. The Quellans are manufacturing weapons again. 12 conquered species are watching humans fight and remembering they once knew how to resist." She turned to face her council. 1 colony, 1 damaged cruiser, 17 shuttles. That's all it took to undo 4 months of conquest. Princess Kira entered the chamber, her younger features sharp with intelligence that mirrored her mother's. She'd watched the footage as well, but her perspective differed from the military commander's. "Mother, may I speak?" The queen gestured permission. "The humans didn't win through superior technology or numbers. They won because they convinced themselves victory was possible even when it wasn't. That belief spread to species we'd already beaten. They're fighting us with hope as much as weapons." Salvara considered this. "You're suggesting we cannot defeat an emotion. I'm suggesting our strategy assumed rational opponents. Humans appear to be selectively irrational in ways that provide tactical advantage." One of the military advisors spoke up. "Your Majesty, we can crush this rebellion. Commit the home fleet. Obliterate Earth and make an example that will terrify the galaxy back into submission." The queen was silent for a long moment. Then she did something that shocked every member of her council. She laughed. "No," Salvara said, "we will not commit the home fleet to chase humans across the stars. We will not waste resources teaching the galaxy that fighting us requires martyrdom. That would only create more volunteers." She walked to the chamber's viewing wall, which displayed a star map of the Empire. Red markers indicated conquered systems. Yellow markers showed human colonies. "Instead, we will learn what they know that we have forgotten. How to inspire loyalty through something other than fear. How to turn desperation into strength." High Commander Vectis looked uncomfortable. "Your Majesty, you cannot mean to negotiate with them." "Not negotiate, understand, and then adapt." She turned back to her council. "The human Admiral Knox defeated our fleet through coordination with species we thought broken. Their engineer Bishop weaponized our own propaganda against us. These are not primitive beings stumbling through the dark. They are dangerous in ways we failed to recognize." Princess Kira stepped closer. "What are you proposing, Mother?" The queen's eyes gleamed with something that might have been respect. "I'm proposing we stop treating this as a simple conquest and start treating it as a war worth studying. Humanity has shown us a flaw in our doctrine. We assumed fear alone could maintain an empire. They've proven that assumption wrong." She activated a holographic display showing Garrett Bishop's face frozen in the moment he'd emerged from the crashed Griffin. "Who is this man?" she asked, though she already knew his name and history. "A mining engineer with no military training who decided a single shuttle could change the course of a battle." And he was right. Kira studied the image. "He doesn't look like a warrior. No. He looks like every other human in that colony. That's what makes them dangerous. Any one of them might decide to become what the situation requires." The queen deactivated the display and faced her council with a decision that would reshape the war. "We will not retreat. We will not commit to total annihilation. We will engage humanity as worthy opponents and learn from every encounter. And when we finally defeat them, it will be because we became better than we were, not because we simply brought more ships." High Commander Vectis bowed. "As you command, Your Majesty. How shall we proceed?" Salvara smiled, an expression that carried both admiration and menace. "Send a message to Admiral Knox. Tell him the Clarvian Empire acknowledges Earth's defense as a legitimate military victory. Tell him we look forward to the next engagement. That will embolden them," one advisor warned. "Good. I want them bold. I want them confident. And then I want to see if their courage holds when we come prepared for their tactics." The council dispersed to carry out their orders, leaving the queen alone with her daughter. Kira looked at the star map, at the yellow markers indicating human space. "Do you truly believe we can defeat them, Mother?" Salvara's expression softened slightly. I believe we can try to become the empire we always claimed to be, one that wins through excellence, not just through numbers. The humans have given us a gift, whether they realize it or not. What gift? A reason to evolve. 3 months after the battle, Garrett Bishop stood in the rebuilt communications array, watching the latest intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The war hadn't ended. It had evolved into something far more complex than simple conquest. The Clarvians had kept their word. Every engagement since Earth had been different, tactical, precise. They were learning, adapting, becoming the opponent humanity had accidentally challenged them to be. But so was everyone else. Admiral Knox entered the facility, his uniform showing new insignia. Commander of Allied Forces. A position that didn't exist before 17 shuttles decided mathematics was optional. Bishop, we need to talk. Garrett turned from the screens. His limp had faded but never fully disappeared. Physical therapy could only do so much when you'd piloted a dying shuttle through atmospheric re-entry. Sir, if this is about the unauthorized modifications to the defense grid, I can explain. Knox actually smiled. It's not, though we will discuss those later. He pulled up a holographic display. The Telrathi want to honor you. The Vorians are naming a ship after Lisa Monroe. The Quellans are teaching your tactics in their military academies. I'm not a hero, sir. I just did what needed doing. That's exactly what makes you dangerous. Knox zoomed the display to show Clarvian space. Their queen sent another message. Personal this time. Addressed to you specifically. Garrett felt his stomach tighten. What does it say? She wants to know how a mining engineer with 4 years of cargo hauling experience outflew her best pilots. She wants to understand the human capacity for what she calls selective irrationality. What did you tell her? Nothing yet, because I wanted to ask you first. How did you do it, Bishop? How did you look at impossible odds and decide you could win? Garrett was quiet for a moment, thinking back to those desperate seconds in the Griffin's cockpit. The alarms, the heat, the absolute certainty that he was about to die. I didn't think I could win, sir. I thought someone had to try, and I was the one in position to do it. The rest just sort of happened. Knox nodded slowly. That's what I thought you'd say, and that's what I'm going to tell the Queen. That humanity doesn't calculate heroism. We just recognize moments that require it and hope we're brave enough when they arrive. He closed the display and looked at Garrett directly. The Clarvians are planning something. Every intelligence report suggests a major offensive within 6 months. But they're not targeting Earth. They're targeting the Allied Fleet Coordination Centers. They want to break our unity before we get stronger. Can we stop them? Honestly, I don't know. We've bought ourselves time and allies, but the Clarvians still have superior numbers and technology. This war isn't over. It might have just begun. Garrett walked to the window overlooking the colony. Below, people went about their lives, building, working, living, because 17 shuttles had bought them the chance to keep doing exactly that. Then we keep fighting, sir, however long it takes. Knox placed a hand on his shoulder. The Council wants to commission you as an officer, give you formal command of the Civilian Defense Corps. I'm not qualified. Neither was I when they gave me this job, but qualifications and necessity don't always align. Garrett thought about Lisa Monroe, about the Patriots crew, about every person who'd climbed into a modified shuttle knowing the odds. If I accept, I do it my way. No unnecessary risks, no glory hunting. We fight smart and we bring people home. Agreed. They stood together in silence, watching the colony below. Somewhere in Clarvian space, a queen was studying human tactics. and preparing her empire for a war that would test both species beyond anything they'd experienced. And somewhere in that same empire, Princess Kira was learning everything she could about the mining engineer who'd changed the galaxy by refusing to accept defeat. She would meet Garrett Bishop eventually. Everyone who studied the war knew that encounter was inevitable, but that was a story for another day. For now, Earth had time. The Allied fleet had hope, and humanity had proven something the Clarvians were still struggling to understand. That courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was the decision to act despite it. Garrett Bishop had made that decision in a modified shuttle above a desperate colony, and the galaxy